And now we'll hand over to Roseanne, who will be talking finance with the senior researcher in feminist economics, Dr. Jamela Basani. Hoveni.
Dr. Jamela, very, very big welcome to Goeiemôre. Good morning. It's so lovely to have you. What an interesting field of study, feminist economics. What exactly does that entail?
Yeah, so feminist economics, just to simplify it, it's a study of economics that looks at gender and how the different genders relate to each other, and particularly how women experience gender inequalities of various forms. And one area of feminist economics that I think a lot of people can relate to is the idea of how women take up so much or shoulder so much of the care work related to caring for children, caring for the elderly, cooking and cleaning. And we call that unpaid care work.
Yeah.
And basically, we argue that this is work on itself, right? It is work that is valuable. And there is a research, I think, by UN Women that shows that unpaid care work actually, if we could value it in terms of its contribution to the economy and to society, it would be worth about 12 billion US dollars. So that's a huge part of our global GDP.
So why is this an important field of study? Because people hear the word feminist and then
Yes.
all of a sudden everyone gets their hackles up.
Yeah, they think we hate men and we're in the streets fighting and picketing. I think it's important because of issues around gender inequalities that affect women and girls in South Africa. So it's important for people to see that the economy as it is currently structured is inherently unequal.
Yeah.
And the only way to address these inequalities is by empowering women and also by recognizing that unpaid care work that they perform. And this can be done through various ways. Do we pay women for, there is a wages for housework kind of movement, which says actually pay me for the housework that I do at home. Do we pay them? Do we put in place infrastructure like childcare, elder care, and so on to support them? Because the thing is, unpaid care work actually impacts women's ability to work in the labor market, right? Because you have to balance your care work and also your employment in the labor market. And it is found that some women actually fall out of the labor market precisely because they cannot balance or they have no one to care for their children or their elderly and so on.
Yeah. It's that question of, please explain this gap in your CV.
Yes.
What were you up to?
Absolutely.
I want to actually throw to Tace and Elsa. Tace, you from a financial point of view, how important is this research?
I think it's very important. Also, just to start off with a quote, I think Hillary Clinton said, if you empower a woman, you empower the entire community.
Exactly.
So, and I think that is what she's trying to strive for.
Yeah.
Is to not only to say that this gap basically in a woman's life, because she's got a lot of things that she needs to tend to.
Yeah.
For instance, that men doesn't have to.
No.
Okay. Yes, we are good fathers.
You and I, we're not equal.
Exactly. and I think I've actually read some of her work as well, offline. And I must tell you, I was intrigued with what I was reading. And it is really uplifting for me to actually understand, what is this all about.
Yeah.
But do you not think that's the problem? Because I would like to get back to the misperception of the word feminist or that term.
Yes.
Isn't that the core of the problem?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there are two things at play. There is the misunderstanding, and there is also the way of framing feminism in a negative light in order to sort of undermine the project, And I don't want to say it is done by men. I think it's done by people who really feel threatened by feminism. But feminism is not threatening because it's about equality, it's about empowerment, it's about justice, it's about the things that impact all of us, men and women.
Yeah, you were speaking earlier about the fact that there is work that is done that is not paid work,
Yes.
and that you basically would need to outsource that and pay someone.
Yeah.
And I saw a TikTok a couple of weeks ago of a woman who actually itemized everything that she did in the house.
Yes.
it was an American TikToker, so a load of grocery, a load of laundry was about $15. Helping the kids with the homework, I think was $8 or $9. Taking them to their activities, cleaning the house, doing all of the things that she actually is doing as a housewife.
Yes.
She was charging her husband for,
Yeah.
and people were up in arms about
Yes.
it.
They were like, why is this woman charging for something that she should naturally be able to do?
Yeah.
So also that misperception that as women we are good at housework is not true. Anyone can do housework. And there are actually people who argue that housework and childcare are specialized skills. These are not just things that we know how to do naturally. These are skills that require particular training in order to do accurately. But I'm going to say something that I think all of you maybe can practice at home. So there's an area of research we call time use. And that's basically accounting for our time during the day, what we do throughout the day. So feminists, for example, they advocate for keeping a time diary. Like at 6 o'clock, I was doing this and I was doing this, and you do it throughout the day. And when they do that, they're able to see the amount of time that women actually spend on unpaid care work. That's the only way we can be able to account. And you find that I spend probably twice as much as James, for example, on unpaid care work. So those are the studies out there that are trying to value this in terms of time. And then if we have time, if we have 8 hours, then we can apply a wage, whatever wage, and then we value it effectively. Then we know how much it's worth, as your TikToker was trying to show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, Taze, is that because you can't quantify it, you can't go, women are making this much of a contribution to our economy by just doing the things that are expected of what moms and women who run their own households have to do.
Yeah, exactly. So now even with the VAT increase, us men have to pay the women now more, from that homework, So, but anyways, that's one of those things.
Because they need to charge you VAT on all that.
Yeah, all those things as well. It's value-added tax.
Exactly.
Value-added tax.
As of the 1st of May, 15.5%, not just 15%.
And I mean, that is also quite, I think, a concerning thing. I mean, as feminist economists and activists, we were we tried to lobby the Minister of Finance. We wrote op-eds, opinion pieces. We wrote policy briefs to basically explain that this VAT increase will not have an equal impact on South Africans. It will impact women more, especially poor women, because let's think about it. Your domestic worker earns 5,000, okay? Of that 5,000, she probably spends about 3.5 on food, yes? Compared to you, maybe you earn 70,000. How much is food as a percentage of 70,000? It's just 10,000. So you see, in relative terms, a poor person spends so much more on food. And that's what we mean when we say VAT is regressive. It means it's a tax that has a particular bad impact on poor people. It is a regressive form of tax.
I worked with someone a couple of years ago who is quite high up in a financial institution. She's the CEO. And her thing is, there's an Afrikaans en in Engels, like it presies dieselfde. A man is nie 'n plan nie.
Ooh, a man is nie 'n plan nie. I wouldn't be here if a man was a plan. I wouldn't be here.
But for some women, especially women that are in kind of more traditional and conservative marriages, as soon as they get married, whatever education they had and whatever maybe dreams that they had for the future get put on hold to raise the family and run the household. Now, daai man is jou plan. But jy het nie 'n inkomste nie because you are not the TikToker that's charging your $15 for every load of laundry.
No.
So that leaves you also kind of economically disempowered, because if that man goes and finds him another plan, then it's a different woman and not you.
You need another plan.
Exactly. So that is a complete disadvantage for many women who find themselves in that situation.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think I'm trying to think of a solution, because, it is more than just about we need to get paid for this. It's about restoring or creating some kind of balance where men also redistribute. We talk about redistributing unpaid care work. So where men actually also undertake some of it, we do realize that you can't eliminate it. But through redistribution, revaluing, I think at least we get closer to some kind of equality.
Dr. Jamela, I could sit here and speak to you for hours and hours. I want to know a little bit more in closing about your book. You're also a self-published author and a famous poet, and you've got a lot to say. So where can people get more information and get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I published my book. It's almost just over 10 years ago. Now I'm due to publish another one. It's a collection of short stories, and it's basically about the lives of African women. And I wanted to tell brave, bold stories that are unapologetic, that talk about sexuality, for example, but also talk about depression. They talk about postpartum depression and how it impacts women. They talk about gender equality, economic empowerment, and so on of women. So that's the book. It's a collection of short stories. It's available on Google Books. I do have copies for those who want their copy, but it's available on Google Books, and you can read it and browse through it if you like. I think the intention has always been to speak about women's empowerment, and also just give women a voice. Women like me, women like you, and women who are a bit disadvantaged.
Well, it's been brilliant having your voice on Goeiemôre, Good Morning this morning.
Thank you so much, Rosette. I've enjoyed it so much. Always wanted to be on a Good Morning show.
And now here you are.
Now here I am.
Elsa, over to you.
Bly ingeskakel net hierna.